Wesley Hunt slammed the unequal application of justice that the crooks in DC are applying towards Joe Biden as opposed to what they applied to Donald Trump.
Joe Biden is the most unpopular president we have seen in a century, and that's why he knows the only way to stop President Trump from beating him in November is by putting him in jail. You talked about this, Mr. Fry. In the 247 years of this existence of this great nation, only one president has ever been indicted by the DOJ and is home rated by the FBI. Now, some have said that President Trump's indictment means that no one is above the law. Okay, all right, I would love to see that. But what about Hillary Clinton? And what about Joe Biden? And what about Hunter Biden, who is America's favorite son? And let me tell you something, I got a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old daughter at my house. Hunter Biden to me is like glitter. He is on everything and you cannot get rid of him. And yet nothing is going to be done about this. We're sick of it. James Comey decided not to prosecute Hillary Clinton despite overwhelming evidence that she committed crimes. And as I recall, it was the position of the FBI to not prosecute because they didn't want to interfere with the presidential election. What do you call this? The Iowa caucuses are in 6 months. 6 months. I think the American public would expect to see this from Cuba and from Venezuela and from Russia and from China, but not here. The people expect us to have blind justice. They expect equal justice under the law. It is not the job of the DOJ or the FBI to prosecute Joe Biden's top political opponent who is leading in every single primary poll, and the Iowa caucuses are in 6 months. Let the people decide. It's our job to uphold the Constitution. As a West Point grad and military veteran, this is the Constitution I give my life to protect, and I expect us all to uphold it likewise. Thank you so much for being here.
Mr. Chairman, may I briefly respond?
Sure.
So number one, as to the investigations related to Mrs. Clinton, as you noted, that happened under my predecessor, and I'm not going to attempt to speak for or defend that decision.
I recognize that.
Second, as to your descriptions of the investigations related to Hunter Biden, as you know, there is an ongoing investigation being led by the Delaware U.S. Attorney appointed by President Trump, and we are actively working on that investigation with him.
We look forward to seeing the results of this quickly and swiftly.
And third and finally, to your point about the American people and their views, I worry less about NBC polls or polls by any other news outlet, but I will tell you that the number of people in Texas applying to work for us since I've been in this job has gone up 93%, and in fact,
I'm not going to quote Matt Gaetz. I heard his response to this earlier.
In fact, we have more applicants from the state of Texas annually in the last several years than any other state in the country.
And that makes sense because Texas is the greatest state in the country.
Then I think that speaks very well of the view of Texans about the FBI.
Now, the point that Wesley Hunt is making here is a great one. This is a point that anybody that is even the least bit independent-minded or independent thinking can make, which is that it is very obvious that there is a two-tiered system of justice in America. The way that the Democrat and left-controlled, three-letter agencies and all these other things, the way that they enforce the laws and the rules on Donald Trump are very different than the laws and the rules that are enforced on Joe Biden. Now, when they appointed this special counsel, again, this is a bit of a throwback because they appointed this special counsel to look into Biden's mishandling of classified documents. There were no raids on the Biden administration. There were no raids in Joe Biden's administration. There were none of this stuff. But when they did it to Trump, they raided Mar-a-Lago. They did all of this other stuff. And what this does, and no matter what you feel about Trump, what this does is it sends a signal to the American people that if you are leaning on one side of the political aisle, you'll be treated one way, and if you're leaning on the other side of the political aisle, you will be treated another way. That is neither right nor wrong. That is just what it is. And when you look at these behaviors, and you take all these behaviors in tandem with everything that they have done, that is what leads to the distrust that the average American has for the entire system.